We're back. Episode 22 of the Jets Group Chat Pod. I would expect to see more of a funeral procession, if you will. Kind of the eulogy on this up and down roller coaster 2022 season. Boys, how we feeling? Dennis, Spiga, PJ, appreciate y'all hopping on. Yeah, exactly right. I think that's the perfect way to put it.
That was hard.
We could officially say we're still the same old Jets. I don't care what anybody says. The stigma is still here.
We're gonna get into that because that's an interesting. Fuck it. Let's jump into it right now. I don't really have anything run down. Like, let's just jump into that because I've thought about that all day too. Like, same old Jets, blah blah blah. But is it the same old Jets? Like, do you feel? Hold on. Do you feel different about, like, obviously it's another letdown, like similar Jets fashion? You have an opportunity to capitalize in a small window and you don't take advantage. Is that same old Jets? Sure. But do you feel the same way about where you're heading into this offseason that you maybe did for the last 12 years? Do you feel any better about the organization than you have for the last 12 years? Because I feel like they at least have some type of foundation. I still trust the general manager for all his shortcomings. I have a little bit of faith in the head coach, maybe not as much as I did going into this year, but I don't like this. Doesn't feel like Adam Gase and that like the future is hopeless. Like, this doesn't feel like Mike McCagnon doesn't know what he's doing, and we're going into an offseason with no cap space, no draft picks. Like, it feels like they're on the right track still, but obviously starting 7-4 and then potentially finishing the season, I don't know, 0-7 or whatever it's going to be, is a bad look altogether. But just what's your feeling altogether about the organization going into this offseason now that this is actually unfolded this way?
I felt good. I felt hyped until the last 5 weeks. Like, the offense completely fell apart. The defense giving up like an average of 20 points a game. Like, they stood their ground, but still not good enough. My stigma of the same old Jets is you can't sit here and say we're cursed. You can't sit here and say, oh, the football gods hate us. The football gods kept us alive when we fucked it up for a long time. At first, it was like, oh, you got to split Minnesota in the Bills. We lost both. And it was like, oh, well, there's still a chance. Run the table. You lose to the Lions. Still a chance. All you got to do is beat the Jaguars. You lose. Still a chance. It was like there's always every favor that we could possibly get with the Dolphins losing to the Packers. Everything you could think of, we got. And the Jets, all they had to do was win. They scored 4 touchdowns in the past 5 weeks. The Chiefs did that last week.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, that's like I think the locker room is different. I feel, and again, that's why I struggle with, like, I think that Saleh should be like on the hot seat or he should leave. We'll get into that in a second because somebody's got to be the sacrificial lamb, but I don't think it's going to be Saleh. Like, this isn't a 1-2 year job to completely turn around the locker room, and I think he did it. They're ascending. They're definitely not there yet. They're a good team, good pieces. They're not a great team. We're not a playoff team. We drank the Kool-Aid way too early. We're not a playoff team. We're almost there, but there's still a lot of work that has to be done. And to be honest, like, looking back, as much as we were hyping up a lot of these drafts that JD did, outside of this year, the last 2 kind of sucked. Elijah Moore, 500-yard receiver. The AVT, different story. Zach Wilson, bust. The nickel corner, Michael Carter, like, cool. I get it. I understand. But, like, look at even some of the big free agent signings. Lincoln Tomlinson, bust. Corey Davis, I'm going to get into that in a second. He's got to go. Yeah. Like, all these big ticket bring-ins that we liked at the time, nobody panned out. Carl Lawson, gone. Get him out of here. I don't know. I felt good going into this. I don't know now. I got to see how the season ends and what they do, but, like, I feel like we're going to pick in the top 10 again. If we lose to the Dolphins and get help, we'll pick 7th. It's not good.
Yeah.
Hold on, I got to crack a fucking high noon for this. High noon, send me a case. I don't know, any flavor you want. It's just
it'll go down on Sunday.
Dennis and PJ, do you think it's a matter of it's not how you start, it's how you finish type of thing? Like, because we felt really good about where the team was going, obviously the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks have changed the trajectory probably about how you feel. Is that correct?
Shit, I think 100% it's correct. Because I mean, we started well, but we didn't end good. Now we're fucking right back where we started, just like last year and the year before, the year before. So yeah, I think so. It could have been so much better. Even when we went to I went to 2 games where I sat in the freezing cold, and then the one I went with you in the rain, and then the one we went and I left my jacket there the last time. Had some
You're always leaving shit somewhere.
Some pretty memorable games here this year. Just wish we could have been doing more. At least watching them on the playoffs. Could have came back to my house and watched them like the old times.
Yeah, man. It's been 12 years now.
Phew. Terrible.
Yeah, I think it went
So I
down
got-
like
yeah.
when like Brees Hall and AVT went down. That's when it like started to go down.
Sure.
Those two were big losses.
Yeah.
We need a fucking quarterback.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where
Yeah.
it comes down to is that
Like it's so sad that like Zach Wilson sucks. Like I so had high hopes for that guy.
He's definitely not broken as a player because he still can throw the ball a fucking country mile. He is so broken as like a human being. His brain is fucking a bag of cats. It's mush. He has no idea what to do. He's all over the place.
He has no idea what to
Aggressive.
do.
there's literally on people on Twitter today that I like more than one that are like the Jets ruined Zach Wilson. The reason the Jets didn't make the playoffs is because they benched Zach Wilson. And I'm like, they literally handed Zach Wilson back the job after benching him. And he came back and he lost 2 games.
Worse.
He had the worst game in the
worse.
NFL on Thursday Night Football. Like,
didn't score any points.
But and it's like, oh well, the benching him the first time they benched him when he was 5-2, and that fucked with his head, and now there's no coming back from that. And I'm like, if you want to be the quarterback in New York City, be the quarterback of the Jets. And if that messes with your head mentally, then you can't be the quarterback of the New York Jets. You can't play in New York. Go to Detroit or go to Houston
Carolina.
or go to Arizona where there's no expectations, there's no pressure, and they go through head coaches and quarterbacks every 2 years just like we do, but there's no pressure there. There's no expectations. If you go 0-4 or 4-0, nobody gives a shit when that happens in Carolina or Houston or Arizona or anywhere else, really. But in New York City, you have to have a thick skin, man. I mean, we all knew the kid was coming from Utah. He was an unexperienced college guy, really kind of only broke out his senior year, just came on the radar. We knew there was going to be some kind of learning curve, and we knew there was probably going to be a culture shock coming from that to the big city. But never in my wildest dreams did I think that it would turn out this way, fast. And the thing is, like, we started this season in September. Like we were excited. Like, remember when he went down in preseason? We were like, oh fuck. If he's out for the year, we're fucked. And by October, we were like, I hope he gets hurt and he's out for the season because he's unplayable. That's where we were at.
What in all honesty, let's put it out. Let's put the cards on the table. Like, he was 5-2. He wasn't setting the world on fire, but he was making look at some of our other pods. Like, again, after this the Steelers game, he was like so all game, but like fourth quarter, final drive, he made the big throws. He made the throws when it counted.
They won that game because of Zach Wilson. That's the only game I could say all year he impacted in a positive way. Is that?
But what happened? Like,
I don't know.
Did he fuck somebody's mom? Like, for real? Like, did the locker room completely and utterly abandon him? What happened? Look at the Jacksonville game. He made the defense worse. Yeah. As soon as he was on the field, the entire team had just a flat vibe. No one cared. Lackadaisical route running, drop passes all over the place. But you're like, what's happening? There's no fire. And then there was no fire yesterday or last week, whatever. But still, like, it almost looked like that one scene in Any Given Sunday where they actively don't want to play for Willie Beeman. So the whole team's just like, fuck it. And they let him get his ass beat.
Yeah.
On the field. It literally looked like they quit on him. And then in turn, just the whole team just fell apart and imploded. I don't know. But I need to hear more. Like somebody's got to do. Connor Hughes, if you're listening, go do something. Go listen. Go find out what the hell happened in that locker room. Rich, do something. I don't know. It's just fucking wild.
I don't know, but if you think back to those times too when they were winning, I remember what was it right before that Denver game, before Brees Hall and Vera Tucker, like that's when Elijah Moore demanded the trade. And like, don't you remember we were like, we're fucking 6-3 or we're 5-2, we're
Yeah,
winning.
yeah.
Why is the guy demanding a trade? Like, sorry you didn't have a target, but like, and I still think that was wrong. Like he was out of line. I shit on the guy, and I'll still shit on the guy for acting out that way. But like, there's obviously something more to the quarterback play, even when we thought Zach Wilson was just game managing or doing what we asked him to do. Behind the scenes, guys didn't want to play with him, man. Like, and we've seen the film. Even when he was managing the games and we were winning, he's missing guys. Although those games that we were pulling out 20-16, 23-20, we could have won those games.
16-9.
Yeah, we could have won those games fucking 38-10, 38-16 if Zach Wilson had found the open guys. And I'm not making this a Zach Wilson thing because there's a lot of guilty people here. I mean, Mike White threw for what? One touchdown in the games that he played. I mean,
well,
it's not
at least
like
we got me. At least we got our answer there. He's not on this roster next year.
We got competent.
LaFleur yet?
And that's where I'm going next because I think that's where you have to put a lot of the blame. And that falls right back on my Zach Wilson argument. Like, isn't the offensive coordinator supposed to develop the quarterback and make the quarterback
or fit
better?
the scheme to what he does? Like roll him out of the pocket and do a bunch of shit that they didn't do all year.
I feel like we have the team that lost the most yards on first down in the NFL this year.
Because it's so predictable.
We always had like a 2nd and 13.
It's like that Herm Edwards run pass.
Was that?
It was like remember back with Herm Edwards, like it was I could fucking scheme a defense against him. Run, pass. Run, pass. Third down passes, running on first and second. That's what it always was. But I feel like someone's got to be the scapegoat here, and I think it's got to be LaFleur. Not only did he not develop Zach Wilson, he didn't fit his skill set. The offense completely imploded the last 5 games. Or no, they didn't really do too bad against the Vikings and the Bills. Whatever. The last 3 games, like the offense imploded. I don't know what the fuck happened. They look like utter dog shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's got to be the scapegoat. I think Saleh he's here, but I think Woody puts him on notice. Next year, you're on the hot seat.
The offensive line looked bad. Like I've been saying for a couple weeks, Fant looks terrible.
Yeah, he's gone. He's been bad. And everybody wanted to give that guy a contract extension after last year. I don't want that. I don't even want that guy on the roster now. But for me, the Saleh point, it comes down to I like Robert Saleh, and I don't know if he's a good coach or a bad coach. The jury's still out. I mean, he's 11-22 after 2 seasons. So, I mean, he's got one more left in the docket, but he's 11 games under 500 at this point. That record would tell you you're not a good coach at this point. But this year there were some promising things. I think probably his biggest asset or his biggest trait as a head coach is it seems like he's a motivator, and guys like to play for him. He's a player's coach. Keeps the room together, and he didn't let the locker room get away when it very well could have multiple times this year. So I give him credit for that. But to me, the last 2 weeks, season on the line, they're essentially playoff games. That team didn't even get off the fucking bus to play the last 2 weeks. Just not prepared to play at all. And it's been for the last 6 weeks that they started those games with no juice, no energy. And like you said, it felt like a different team. We've talked about it. All 4 of us have talked on this pod all year that when they were riding that hot streak, I felt like they could beat any team in the league any given week. I didn't care if the Chiefs were coming in, the Bills were coming in, the Cowboys.
Beat the Bills.
I thought
beat the Bills.
I thought all these games would be tall tasks, but I'm like, the Jets could go toe to toe with anybody. And for the last 5 weeks, it hasn't felt like that. It has not felt like that. Somewhere in between the tide turned somewhere and the energy just went out. And I don't know if it was when Mike White broke his ribs in Buffalo. A lot of people point to like different things throughout the year.
That fucking bye week.
A lot of people point to like where games shifted, and they're like, you remember back when we were kids, like the fake spike, like pretty much turned our season, like the Dan Marino game.
Yeah.
A lot of people today have been pointing out a couple, like that pick six on Mac Jones right before halftime that ended up turning into a roughing the passer, like
That killed the season.
that killed. And then the 4th and 1 against Detroit, hitting that backup fucking tight end down the sidelines to beat us against Detroit. It seemed like the team checked out after that too. Like they haven't scored a touchdown since that Detroit game. It feels like.
They haven't.
It just seems like all these pivotal plays, pivotal moments, they like kind of let shape their season. But I think that's kind of where they're at. They're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plays away in a season from being a playoff team to not being a playoff team. But they're also, those plays could have gone the other way. Look at the Cleveland game. We shouldn't have won that game. There's the Pittsburgh game we probably shouldn't have won. So you could look and say we should have won these games, but there's games that we won that we probably shouldn't have won either. So I think they probably are somewhere around what they are. They're probably a 6, 7, 8 win team at best that needs to make improvements. But I think if you don't have the quarterback, you don't have the answer to any of your questions until you get a quarterback. But really, where I'm at too is, and this is where evaluating to me is difficult, because I think we all actually literally said it, like on the episode before the season started, what would a successful season be? And we said they had to win 7 games. Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas, everybody's good if they win 7 games this year. Yep. And so they won 7 games. They played meaningful football into January, which that's what we wanted. That's what we said would be a successful season. But doesn't it feel like we did that? We checked all those boxes, and it feels like the future is so bleak. It feels like an unsuccessful season.
That's also the fucking trials of being a Jet fan. We could go to the Super Bowl and we're like, oh, we fucking suck.
But that's why I think it's true when they say it doesn't really matter how you start, it's how you finish. And that's why it's so disappointing, is that
expectations
change. Yeah, exactly right, Dennis. Your expectations have to change on a curve. So you go in with none, but you start 6-2 and 7-4. All you got to do is win 9 to get in. And so they were 7-4. They're going to finish 7-9. So they're going to lose 5 or 6 in a row. And that was in what we all perceived to be the easy part of our schedule, right?
Yep.
We were supposed to fucking crush Detroit. We were supposed to crush Jacksonville. Seattle was winnable. Miami is now winnable. New England, we couldn't score a touchdown against New England in New England. It's just they didn't show up when it mattered most. And as much as it hurts to admit it, they don't deserve to be there. They're not a playoff team at this point. They need to sit down. They need to take a step back and evaluate what went wrong, who's to stay, who's to go, whose fault these things are. And they got to get it right. But I think there's a lot more pressure now next year to get it right.
Yeah. To play devil's advocate, there is a lot to like about this season. You know, your defense is great. Granted, I mean, I think we drank the Kool-Aid a little bit early on in that they're amazing. They're, the best defense in the league. They're a good defense. There's still a lot of holes. We need 2 brand new safeties. We need linebackers who can cover, and we need another edge rusher who can actually fucking
definitely
sack the quarterback. But
definitely,
I think there's a lot to like. I think there's a lot to like about the season. But I feel like we talked about early on, we wanted answers to our questions. What's Zach Wilson? What's our quarterback going to look like? Or how's this draft class, this perennial generational draft class going to look like? We've got the answers that we were looking for. The problem is that some of those answers are not what we wanted to hear. We need to see what Zach Wilson was. We now know January 2nd, he's not the guy. It's a shitty answer, the one we didn't want to be the answer. But at least now you know.
But it's better to know now than wait another year and a half.
Another year. Same thing with Mike White. Correct. Like we would have, again, not saying it was like, oh, here's the silver lining, because there are, but whatever. But it sucks that, everybody's still hurting. But let's say Mike White did play these last 6 games, wins 4 of them, whatever. Or this last stretch, wins, blah, 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 wins the last 3 games. Then maybe we do get the help. We don't get the help. He makes the playoff. He doesn't. Now you're in like a worse situation. Now you need to figure out, we have to pay Mike White, and you're going to pay him top dollar, $25 million a year for a guy who was a journeyman.
Yeah.
So that's like, that puts you in a weird position. And it's like, well, Zach's still there. We don't know what to do. So I feel like of the shitty situation we have, this is probably the best hand that we were dealt, is now we know Neither of them are the guy, and probably the whole quarterback room is completely different next year. No Flacco, Wilson. It depends if you can move him or not, but probably no Mike White. Now figure it out. Go get somebody. Go get a vet. Don't draft somebody because we can't fucking
draft.
Well, yeah, we're not really, and everybody wants that Richardson kid from Florida. We can't fucking we can't develop the number 2 overall pick. You think we're gonna take on a project quarterback and we'll figure it out? No, like they're good, they're ascending. There's a lot to like about the season, a lot to hate about the season, but we got some of the answers that we needed. They're just not the answers that we wanted. Move on from Zach. Move on from Mike White. Move on from Flacco. Strevler, I don't know what you want to do. Keep him on as a Taysom Hill guy, whatever you want to do. You need to go out and get Carr, get Garoppolo, or somebody who's proven. Not fucking Gardner Minshew, not Baker Mayfield, even though I'm a Baker lover, or not, Teddy Bridgewater. Like, no.
I'll take
No.
Carr all day. Derek Carr all day. Give me
Exactly.
25 touchdowns and 13 interceptions every year.
What were you saying, Cardos? Like his worst season would be a
Derek
generational
Derek Carr's worst season will get him in the fucking Ring of Honor at MetLife Stadium. Like his season this year would have been like the best season a Jets quarterback has had in like 20 years.
I just hope he's not on the
and that season got him fucking benched.
I know.
Dude, he had 3,600 yards this year. Our franchise leader in history has 39. He had 36 this year with 24 tutties. We haven't had a quarterback throw for 24 touchdowns in a fucking decade.
We haven't had
nobody wants Derek Carr. Like everybody on Jets Twitter, as if we have Mike White and Chris Strevler and we're too good for fucking Derek Carr. Get the fuck out of my face. Like what are you talking about?
There's only 2 guys who are like honestly who are really worth like that vet come here and play. Honestly, it's literally it's a 2-horse race. I don't want to draft. If you draft somebody, you better draft somebody in fucking round 3 who's got potential, and you figure it out later. But no more first-round quarterbacks because we can't do it.
I think they're going to keep Wilson and keep him as a development guy. Like they don't have to pay him for 2 more years. They're going to bring in a vet. Wilson's going to go in with the clear understanding he's the backup, and they'll continue to work with him.
Yeah. Unless Joe Douglas can fleece somebody, which I doubt because I think everyone knows that.
I think he'll dangle him. Right.
Could you imagine, real quick? I don't mean to do it. Could you imagine Zach Wilson's your number 2? Your 2023 starting quarterback is Tom fucking Brady. Could you imagine?
I'm for it, but I just don't think he'd want to come here. But I don't know what the
just
market.
Take it to Belichick, maybe.
I don't know what the market for like a veteran like. To me, he's tailor-made for San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he grew up a 49ers fan. He's from California. They have the best defense in the league. They have Christian McCaffrey.
It pissed him off that he said that 2 years ago, and they said, nah, we're good.
Yeah, I think by God.
Now you're going to go back 2 years later?
I don't know. You think he's going to go play for the fucking... Think he's going to go play for the fucking Jets?
Well, I was reading earlier about Derek Carr. They were saying that, since his contracts would be so much money, they would have to like kind of have like a verbal agreement with somebody that they'll do it at a certain time. And the fact that his contract is like $40 million guaranteed, that means that compensation given back would be a lot less.
Right.
And that if they can't find anybody, they'll probably just cut him.
His $40 million is guaranteed 3 days after the Super Bowl. Technically, you can't do anything until March. What, 14th, 15th? What's the
you could agree to it, but you can't actually make it official until March.
Yeah.
Like what happened
technically didn't get screwed.
It's the same thing that the Chiefs did with Alex Smith when they traded him to the Redskins after they drafted Mahomes. Like he had the same thing. He had like a guaranteed thing 3 days after the Super Bowl, and everybody knew like 3 days after the Super Bowl he was getting traded to the Redskins. But they couldn't like announce that until March, but everybody knew.
Do you play chicken and hope they just cut him, and then you could work out your own deal? Because $40 million's a fucking lot.
The thing with that though is Derek Carr has a no trade clause, so he could veto any trade that they bring to him. So if it's not where Derek Carr wants to go, it's got to be where he wants to get traded to. Otherwise, if he wants to come to the Jets and the Jets offer a 7th, then they'll do it. But like, it's a trade that comes to him has to be approved by Carr. Otherwise, they'll cut him.
Is this a 2-for-1 deal with Devontae Adams?
Yep.
They can't.
Back.
They can't move Adams. His contract's like they can't get out of it.
Didn't he sign? Didn't he sign like only a 3-year deal though,
I don't remember what it was, but I
or
looked
a
at it
3-year
yesterday.
extension?
The dead cap is like not movable. Like they'd have
Ugh.
a fucking 40 million dead cap hit or some shit like no. If he's on the roster, he's only like an $11 million cap hit, but if they move him, it's like a $28 million cap hit. So like if he's not on the roster, you're paying him more money to go to somebody else, and I just don't
That makes sense.
see them doing that. I think they're gonna cut him. I mean, they'll probably get something for him if they trade him, but it's got to be somewhere that he wants to go.
Yeah.
Which is why I think they've probably even had those discussions already. They said that they all talked, and when they sent them home and told them to not come around the team, they probably said like, "Hey, you and your agent start fucking putting feelers out to see who's going to be looking for quarterbacks, see where you might be interested in going, and then when the time comes, we'll talk trade." But they're probably working on that now because, like I said, his future's got to be decided 3 days after the Super Bowl, so that's in a month. So those wheels are probably already in motion, and a team that is going to acquire him has to start thinking about that now as well. But I think the Jets would be right at the top of the list of people that want him. I think they'd be happy to have him.
Oh yeah, should be.
Hell yeah.
Just I don't know. I don't feel as upset as I thought I would when they went down in flames this way, but I don't feel good either. Like I don't know. I'm kind of like indifferent. Like I feel like there's foundational guys there. Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall comes back, AVT comes back. You got Sauce Gardner, you have DJ Reed, you have Quinnen Williams. So you have a lot of foundational pieces that you really haven't had in previous years where you didn't have that in the McCagnon years or the Adam Gase years.
They've got cornerstone players. They really do.
You got some building blocks out there.
I don't know, man. I'm just gonna speak it out there. You could call me fucking crazy. I don't know how crazy it is. I don't know, man. Like I just have a weird feeling Lamar might shake free out of Baltimore.
I don't know.
I don't think that'll work with our receivers either.
I think he's the perfect quarterback for our offense. He's like tailor-made for the way we run our offense, I feel like.
You better bring his fucking offensive coordinator with him.
Well, just think about it though. Lamar wanted what he wanted last year. Baltimore wasn't willing to do it. He still wants that now, and he's been injured the whole year.
Well, you know why he hasn't played all the last 4 weeks? He's got a hurt knee. He's like, I'm not going to come back out.
Right, and he's injured, but like he might miss. I don't know how many more weeks he's going to miss. But
are they in the playoffs, right?
If they didn't want to give it to him a year ago, do they want to give it to him now, coming off a knee injury where he hasn't played in 6 weeks? I mean, those were some of their reservations about paying him to begin with. Was that he was always injured. He was injury prone. The way he played wasn't sustainable long term. I'm not saying it's likely, but I think the odds of or the likelihood of him shaking free from Baltimore is higher now than it probably was 2 months ago. Like I don't think it's a zero possibility like I probably did a couple months ago. They could always obviously franchise tag him. He's not going to be happy with that.
He's not going to sign it. Didn't they try to do it this year and he flipped out?
And so either you can tag him, he signs it, and he comes back. I can't imagine he'd do that, or he's going to hold out like Le'Veon Bell did. Don't think he wants to do that. Or they could tag and trade him for a shit ton of picks. And that's where the Jets would, I think, come into play because I think they're desperate to make a splash. They're desperate for a quarterback. And I think Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas would trade. I think they would trade every first-round pick for the next 5 years to get Lamar Jackson if they could. So I don't think it's a high probability. I'm not like saying this is happening. I'm just saying I don't think it's a scenario we could completely cross off the list. I think it's possibly maybe a thing.
If we're parting ways with draft picks, give me Sean Payton.
Aaron Rodgers. Is that a possibility?
I don't know. Them making the playoffs now makes me feel like it's not. Like they've turned it around. They're probably, if they win next week, they're in. His contract is kind of hard to get out of after this year. It's a much easier in 2 years. I don't know if he wants to leave. I don't know if he'd want to come to New York. I don't know if he'd want to go anywhere. He might might just as soon as retire if
He's
he wasn't
getting
going to be a
very
great.
good with Christian Watson.
Yeah, so I don't really know how that again. I say
He's
it's
not
not
going anywhere.
it's I think I would think like Lamar is probably more probable than Aaron Rodgers, honestly, even though he's younger. But again, I don't think that's highly probable, but I don't think it's like a total zero either. Like I think
Yeah.
there could be a 4% chance of that happening, but I don't think it's zero, which is why I mention it. But it just feels like and I've read it, like there's a lot of articles out there, like there's some smoke to it. So I don't know. It doesn't seem like he's like fully back in Baltimore right at this point. So we got to see
No.
how that plays out. But if not, I think the realistic option, if you're not getting Rodgers and you're not getting Jackson, the logical target is obviously
It's Carr.
is Carr, and you should be thrilled to fucking have that guy in your building. And he's a great locker room guy. He's a great
Might
culture
even get his
guy.
jersey if we get Derek Carr.
It's going in the Ring of Honor, man.
Hmm.
So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. They have a lot of decisions, and the thing is, it was such a good feeling all year that the 7-4 start, and just even the last 2 weeks, knowing if we win two, and there's a good probability we're in, but it feels like there's a lot more questions
He was
going
scored a
into
touchdown.
there's a lot more questions going into this offseason than I feel like we had last offseason. And it's interesting to see how they're going to address it, because I think now, even though there's a lot more questions, I think they feel a sense of urgency, and I think there's going to
No, but
no, I think they're going to feel a sense of urgency this offseason to make some substantial gains and make some headway into putting a much better team out there on the field that's built to not only win 7 games but win 10, win 11.
And that's what I mean. Like they progressed. They did well. The locker room seems like it's shifting, depending on outside of the Zach Wilson stuff. Like look at how they rallied around a guy like Mike White. Like I feel like the locker room is secure. I think we got, like I said, a lot of the answers to the questions that we had. I think we still have questions, but I think there are less questions. The problem is it's like they're glaring questions. You know, we were all over the place. We were in shambles last year. Now with this year, what are your questions? It's like your offensive line, your quarterback, and like parts of your stopgaps in your defense. Like I'd rather those three. I mean, not rather those three. Than like we need an entire new offensive line. We have no quarterback. We have no receivers. We have no this. We had Javon Curse. Like all these. I'd rather the situation we're in now. But now, like you said, it puts an emphasis on now Saleh and Joe Douglas have to get it right. We said it last time. They've earned the right to pick another quarterback if Zach didn't work out. We're here. Here we are. But now you're not going to get a third chance. So I would shoot not for the moon, not for this, like get the safe guy who's going to be might not be the highest ceiling, but like the highest floor. Like get that guy who we just need competent quarterback play. Then get a guy who his worst is above average. Probably going to be Derek Carr.
I mean, if they had Derek Carr this year, they probably contend for the division if Derek Carr is the quarterback. Like they arguably win 11, maybe 12 games if Derek Carr was their quarterback.
It should have Daniel Jones was the quarterback.
Yeah, they probably win 10 or 11 games with Daniel Jones. No question. I don't think that's a stretch. I think that's fair. What do you guys feel about Saleh and Douglas? Like, is next year just go each one of you just quickly playoffs, or they're both out next year? They got to make the playoffs next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
What's Saleh's record?
11-22 right now.
Yeah, they got to make the playoffs next year.
I think Saleh might be out before. I think, like, here's my prediction: somebody's got to be the scapegoat. Someone's got to be thrown to the wolves, and it's probably going to be LaFleur. Whoever you get, like honestly, whatever quarterback you decide to go, let him handpick his offensive coordinator. Like get somebody as a package deal, whatever that means.
That's what Saleh did. He picked his offensive coordinator.
Yeah, but
no, the quarterback.
Yeah, but Michael Floor's like record was like he was a graduate assistant at Wagner. He was a fucking offensive passing specialist that
went to Wagner.
Exactly. Offensive like passing specialist at San Francisco. He never had like true experience. That's why I try not to beat him up too much because half the shit you have to learn on the job. Like Saleh's problem, his clock management, his this, it's all shit you only get from being a head coach. Okay, so like I think that lets it slide a little bit. But I think he starts the season on the hot seat. But I think Joe Douglas, depending on how this draft goes, he's a little bit more safe. He hits another home run, like he could pick another 2 coaches. But
that's where I don't know. I feel like they have to be kind of married because
I don't know.
this was his coach.
Though.
He picked the coach. He hired the coach, and so you gave him that swing. But like, I don't think Joe Douglas has done some nice things, but he's done plenty of bad things too. To where like, should he get to also pick like missed on the quarterback? All his free agent signings, aside from DJ Reed, have been bad. Like Corey Davis has been bad. George Fant has been bad. Whitehead is bad. Laken Tomlinson is bad.
But like,
all his first 2 drafts are bad. The 2020, there's 2 players still on the team. They're terrible. Becton hasn't played. Ashton Davis is fucking awful.
Yeah,
and then you have the punter who they're going to cut. So come this offseason, you might have no players on this roster from the 2020 draft. Now the 21 draft looks terrible. They missed on the quarterback. Vera Tucker is obviously good, but like Michael Carter's turned out to be not as good as we thought he was. He's much better in a complementary role.
Number 2.
He was much better when Breece Hall was there. Obviously not as effective when they thrust him into a starting role, but Elijah Moore's turned out to be a little bit underwhelming. Again, that a lot of that probably has to do with the quarterback play, but the jury is out. We're not sure about Elijah Moore right now. We're not as solidified in that pick as we were a year ago.
He's also again
Denzel Mims band pick
sucks. Get him out of
here. He's made and he hired the coach, so like he's done plenty of things that have not been all. He's made a lot of good trades. His 22 draft looks like a franchise-altering draft. But I mean, he mailed in pretty much a draft and a half. And then, but the thing is, like, the quarterback is like a catastrophic whiff.
I know.
It's a catastrophic whiff. And that was his pick. Like, that was him. That was him and his handpicked coach's pick. Like, they hired him. They decided Darnold wasn't the guy, which they were right. And then they had an opportunity, and they went the wrong way.
We got Justin Fields.
So no, he sucks too, though. He's not that good. He's got some wheels. He can't analyze defenses. He's athletic. But once they figure him out.
Yeah, I like Fields. I think Fields is pretty good. I don't know. He had obviously a pretty historic 6 or 7 week.
Everybody's going back to the locker room.
Sean McDermott said he won't play. Sean McDermott just said he's not sending his players out. He's like, we can't play unless we know if our guy's okay. I kind of respect that.
Wow.
I'm reading on Twitter right now. He pulled the whole team off. He pulled the whole team off of the.
Oh wow.
Fields.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap here because I want to go.
Bro, what happened to James Robinson too? What the fuck?
For real.
Yeah, he's been inactive.
He's been upset.
Yeah, he's gone. Obviously, traded a pick for really 2 weeks of play.
But that's the thing. It's like it sucks because it's like every move that we made, we're like, oh shit, and then it was like, oh shit. Like Corey Davis has. I've been thinking about him for so long. He's bad, and he drops passes left and right. Like look, he went 2021. He had 34 catches for 400 yards. This year, 31 catches. He's your number 2. Elijah Moore is your slot. Corey Davis is your number 2. 34 catches, 31 catches, 490, 519.
He only played 9 games though. He missed half the season.
Part of the problem.
Sure.
He's always fucking hurt. That was always his problem when he was in Tennessee. He's got to go.
Tight ends dropped the hell out of the ball this year.
Yeah, I mean they had Conklin was pretty solid. He's the best tight end they've had in a while. I mean he had 50. I mean they're still another week. I think he's at 54, 55 catches. Yeah. So they haven't had a tight end catch 55 balls or more probably since Dustin
And
Keller. If I
Uzma
had
did
to guess.
exactly what you wanted. And Uzma did exactly what you
They
wanted.
they underutilized him though for the signing and the money they paid him. They pretty much made him a glorified blocking tight end, where like he was used a lot in the passing game in Cincinnati. They didn't really use him at all. They started to let him loose a little bit. I feel like the last 3 or 4 weeks, but for like the first 12 weeks of the season, he was just a blocking tight end. He didn't do anything. So that was a little bit of an but he's a good culture guy. He's a good locker room guy. He's kind of like firmly in there. He came from a Super Bowl appearance and brought some winning attitude there. So not going to knock that signing, but
going back to like offensive woes, I'm reading here. Do you know that in 20 years, that's 2 decades, ladies and gentlemen, the Jets have had only 6,000-yard receivers?
I believe that.
6.
2 of them were in the same year. Marshall
Decker and Marshall.
In 15.
But like Santonio Moss, 1,100 in 2003. Laveranues Coles and just under 1,100 in 2006. Jericho Cotchery, 1,100 2007. Brandon Marshall, 1,500. Eric Decker, just over 1,000 in 2015, and then now Garrett Wilson.
No Santonio Holmes. Santonio Holmes didn't have
yeah, he was hurt all the time too.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I like Tone.
And they ran the shit out of the ball.
Yeah, that was the ground and pound years. Boy, I wouldn't give to go back to those times.
Sean Green.
I miss Eric Decker.
You know what's sad too is I read today that right now the Sacramento Kings have the longest playoff drought in all 4 major sports.
And if they make the playoffs, it's
but
us.
Right now they're they're like a 5 or 6 seed in the West right now. So if they hold on and make the playoffs in a couple months, that the Jets will have the longest playoff drought in American sports. So we got that, ladies and gents. Yeah. We've always got that.
We should make the fucking playoffs next year. Hope we do, but that's the next step. That's the next. It was always it. That's one last thing I know we want to wrap. That was always the plan. 2023 was always the plan. We wanted it with Zach Wilson, but it was never this year. We just happened to have and hit on these draft picks earlier than we thought. We caught fire early. This year was never the year. Next year was always the plan, but now that puts the emphasis on now you've got to make the playoffs, or they both might be gone. Everybody might be gone.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think the best thing that came out of it was the rookies ascending quicker than everybody thought they would, which in turn exposed that Zach Wilson is not the guy. Because if the rookies weren't as good this year, maybe you don't realize Zach Wilson isn't your guy. Maybe you're blaming it on bad wide receiver play, no running game, the line, and you still don't know. Remember, like after Darnold's 3rd year, when we didn't know whether they should keep him or not. Like I still didn't know, like if Darnold was good or not. We were 3 years.
Who's he throw to? Like Jermaine Kearse,
right? Right. But at that point, we were like, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. Like I just don't know. Like here we are after 2 years of Zach Wilson. I feel like we know, like Zach Wilson's not it. Like
Darnold's playing well now,
and he's playing well now. He is. He's played much better since he got back in the starting lineup. And again, is he a franchise quarterback? No, but could he turn out to be a guy that wins some games for some middle tier team? Sure. I mean, seems like that's what he's turning out to be in Carolina. And shout out to Geno Smith. I fucking love that dude. I'm like, I know we lost yesterday and everybody's sour grapes, but like, I still love me some Geno Smith. Always will.
I hate
did you see him tweeting at all the Jets fans today? He's like, all my mentions have been quiet today. And then he kept quote tweeting all the Jet fans respond to me. He's like, that's why you got your ass whooped yesterday. Like, get off my mentions. So he was coming back at all the Jets fans.
Hey, he earned the right. He earned the right to say it.
Lamar Adams said something too.
Fuck him. He's sitting in the box in the last 3 years. He's a punk.
Yeah. Well, boys, take the rest of the week to kind of decompress, kind of take your mind off the Jets because we don't have to worry about anything this Sunday. Here, before we wrap, I just want your opinion. Sunday, 1:00, Jets Dolphins. Do you want the Jets to win to knock the Dolphins out of the playoffs, or do you want to lose and get a better draft pick?
Lose, get a better draft pick.
I don't want the Dolphins in there because Tua is not playing for them. So who the Skylar Thompson's our quarterback in the playoffs? I hate Mac Jones. So I don't know.
I want to see him win.
I want to see them, whoever fucking plays quarterback, whatever they do, end the season with fight.
The caveat is if the Dolphins win and make the playoffs, or if we beat the Dolphins and knock them out, we send the Patriots to the playoffs.
Who do you hate more, Mac
Yeah.
Jones or the Dolphins? I hate Mac
Patri-
Jones a lot.
Either way, either team will be 1-out, so it doesn't really matter to me. I want to see them win.
I'll take a top 10 draft pick though.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to see fight. I honestly don't care about the score. I don't
I know
care about any of that. I
we
wanna see
said that
touchdowns.
we said that in 2020 when we fucked around and won 2 games and it cost us Trevor Lawrence. So I'm done with the bullshit. Oh, we gotta
fucked him up
fight.
too.
We gotta win games.
No, we would have fucked him up too.
I'm done with that. Fucking lose and get the draft pick. I don't care. I don't care about winning anymore. If they're not gonna make the playoffs, it doesn't matter. If you win 7 games or you win 1 game, it doesn't really matter at that point. So fucking get the draft pick.
Don't get hurt. Like
Yeah.
don't
I would
fucking
sit
get hurt.
everybody this week. Like I want Trevor to start. I want Jeremy Ruckert to start. Sit Quinn and Williams. Sit Sauce Gardner. Don't even play any of these guys.
I'd play Jordan Whitehead and fucking LaMarcus Joyner every play.
Yeah. Like start Denzel Mims, start Ty Johnson, and just start James Robinson.
Traveler.
I don't know. Just end it.
Yeah.
Let's get to playoffs. Let's let this dude be fucking safe and alive. Like let's let that happen.
Did you say something? They're getting New Jerseys again?
What? Who?
I think Carlos said that they're getting New Jerseys again.
No, I don't think they can. I think they have to wear them for another
4
year.
years. Yeah, I think 4 years to do it.
You have to have them for at least 4 years. So I don't think they could. Oh shit! I just got a. Darren Hamlin has a pulse, but is not breathing on his own. He's being transported to the hospital. Needed an AED and CPR on the field.
Damn.
Well, there's no way honestly, you're putting everybody at risk if you make them continue this game. Whose brain is going to mental illness?
It says it's been temporarily suspended.
Yeah, all the fans are just sitting there.
Yeah. All right, boys.
Prayers up for Damar Hamlin, man.
Yeah, appreciate you boys hopping on. Again, Happy New Year to everybody. If you're not already, like YouTube, follow on Instagram, Twitter. Appreciate you listening, following, doing that whole thing. It's been an awesome first year in 2020. We're obviously our first episode of 2023. Going to be in a another turbulent off season, it seems. So we'll be here all winter breaking down what's going to go down. Obviously, we have one more game left in Miami. We'll be back sometime next week just to kind of break that down, set the scene for what they're going into. It's going to be a bumpy off season. So once again, thank you for following. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys later.
Take care. Take flight, people.